Hello, amazing artists. And today I want to share with you an artist that I just recently discovered that I think is pretty cool. I love his artwork. And this screen right now that you're looking at is an example of one of his artworks. And I just want to ask you a few questions about it as we're very first looking at it before we learn anything more about him. So first of all, obviously we can see this is a painting of toys. And I'm wondering, do you see any toys that you recognize? I know I definitely do. These are actually a lot of the toys that I remember playing with, or I remember my brother playing with when I was a kid. So as you look carefully at this artwork, notice some of the toys, notice what they're doing, or what they seem to be doing in the picture. And I want you to think, how do you think the artist made this artwork? How big do you think it is? Well, I'm going to show you in the next slide. The next slide is going to give us an idea of just how big this artwork is. If you look carefully at this picture, you'll notice that this artwork is not painted on paper or canvas. In fact, it covers the entire side of a whole building. So you can see, if you look down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that in this photograph, you see cars parked next to it. You can see other buildings in the background. So this is a huge mural. This mural was created by an artist named Jonathan Queen. And here is a picture of Jonathan Queen with some of his collection of toys. So yep, he collects toys. Not surprising when you see that painting, right? That mural. He created it. He did not create that all by himself. He created the artwork. He came up with the idea, but then he worked with a team of apprentices, which means helpers that were learning from him while they were helping him. So he worked with a team of apprentices that helped him create that huge mural. Can you tell he likes toys? Yeah. So actually, he was painting toys a long time before he painted that giant mural. Here are some of his paintings that he calls toy portraits. So these are small paintings about the size of your Chromebook, actually. And he painted these toys from his very large collection of toys. So you can see here are all these different toys, and he has them posed kind of like they would be, like a person would be posing for a portrait. So it's that's why it's a toy portrait. Sometimes, though, he poses his toys together and even with other objects to create toy narratives. That means it's a toy story. But he makes the toys kind of tell a story. So if you look at this one, we see the little rabbit, the turtle. Kind of makes me think of a story I believe I've heard before about a rabbit and a turtle, or maybe you would call it a tortoise and a hare, right? So I thought that was kind of a funny. Sometimes he makes them tell a story to teach a lesson. Sometimes they're just to be funny. Sometimes they are a very personal story, and we may not even know what it is when we look at it. When I look at this picture, I find it's really interesting. I can see some of the characters I even recognize. You see the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. I see Mr. Clean, I believe. And he uses other objects too. So you can see he used stones and some bottles with some plants in them and pictures in the background, photographs. So, but then he paints. So he sets it all up and then he looks at it. He paints from observation. But some of them are not really obvious. Like this picture, we kind of wonder and we can kind of make up our own story and think about what it might be about. So after years of making his toy portraits and narrative paintings of toys, he had the opportunity to try something very different. He was hired to paint a mural, his first mural, and it was for Kroger, the grocery store. The Kroger company, actually, though, not just the store, but the overall big company of them, are located in Cincinnati. So this is where the artist lives. He lives in Cincinnati, Ohio. A lot of you have probably been there before. It's not too far from here, just a couple hours away. And he painted this on the side of a building in downtown Cincinnati. And I have a video shared with you all that kind of goes through the process of what he did to get this picture. It's really interesting because it looks like, a big box laying on its side full of fruit and vegetables. And that's exactly what he looked at when he made the picture. And that's so that's how he made the picture, was by looking at a box of fruits and vegetables that he actually bought at Kroger. And so that's why it looks so much like that. So that's kind of cool. And he, again, worked with a team of other artists. So he designed it. He mixed the colors of paint. They helped him take his smaller picture and to make it bigger on the building. Okay, after this mural, he had a really cool opportunity to paint some of the panels in a carousel. So in Cincinnati, they were making a brand new carousel. It's going to be it's an indoor carousel. You can go there and ride on it. Well, when we're allowed to go places again. And he painted the panels. If you look closely above the animals, there's little panels, and he painted those and back inset, and they're all of Cincinnati parks and landmarks. So he went to all these places. He took pictures of them. He prepared his artwork by doing some research. So we talk about that, like planning and practicing. So he did his research. He took pictures that he looked at when he finally was ready to create this final product. So this is Carol Ann's Carousel, which led to, finally, the Cincinnati Toy Heritage Mural. Because in Cincinnati was a toy manufacturer back in the 70s and 80s, especially. That's when these toys were made, called Kenner. And they made Care Bears and Star Wars toys. And you can see Strawberry Shortcake. I have that Strawberry Shortcake, actually. And Mr. Potato Head and all of these, the Ghostbusters toys. So they made all of these different toys. And so in order to kind of memorialize this toy company and their contributions to Cincinnati, they painted this huge mural on the side of a building downtown. So that's Jonathan Queen. And these are some. I'm going to show you one more kind of painting that he's created that I just discovered a few days ago. These are called cabinet card paintings, and these are old photographs that people would have taken, portraits of themselves or of loved ones. And you can see, though, they don't look quite normal, not like something that maybe grandma or great grandma may have tucked away in their old shoe boxes or photo albums, because the faces are a little different, right? So he takes these old photographs and replaces the original faces with toy heads. So kind of an interesting, another way that he's using toys to inspire his artwork. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And actually something that that you may not know is a lot of artists are inspired by toys. And I'm going to show you right now a couple other artworks that were inspired by toys. If you look, the picture on the left actually is a cartoon I used to watch when I was a kid, He-Man. And I don't know if you have heard of that one. I think they've made a remake of it now, so you may have. But you see these characters, and they're inspired by the original characters. And then on the other side, we see some other items. It's all piled up, a whole bunch of different toys. And these, again, are toys from my childhood, actually. So, and one more picture, actually two pictures here. This is a sculpture by Jeff Koons, the one that looks like a big balloon animal. But you might notice that behind that balloon dog is an escalator. So it's a pretty big sculpture. It's not actually made of balloons. It's actually made of metal, but it's created to look like a balloon dog. So it's kind of cool, I thought. But it's inspired by things that we play with, right, as kids. And then down in the bottom, this is a little different. This sculpture is made out of toys. So if you look very closely, you might see down below the dinosaur, I see a whole bunch of Shreks. On the dinosaur, I see some Mickeys and Minnie Mouses. And maybe you spot some others. I even spotted a Minion and a Pikachu in there somewhere. So if you look carefully at this sculpture, you're going to spot a lot of toys that you recognize. So a lot of artists are inspired by toys. So my art challenge for you this week is to create artwork inspired by toys. So maybe like our artist today, like Jonathan Queen, you may decide to paint or draw a portrait of one of your toys. Or maybe you want to group your toys together. Maybe you want to photograph them, setting up a scene to tell a story, and you want to photograph those. Photography is another way that artists create. Or maybe you want to use toys. Maybe you have a whole bunch of old McDonald's toys, and you want to use those to put those together to create a sculpture. Anything that you can come up with, any way that you feel like creating using toys or that's inspired by toys, that is my challenge for you today. So see what you can come up with. Go look in your bedroom. And I would say you may, if you think of it, ask your folks at home, ask the adults at your house to share with you about their favorite toys when they were kids, because we all love toys and we're all inspired by them. And I guarantee that when you ask that adult to tell you about their toys, they're going to tell it with a smile on their face, because toys are a happy memory for all of us. So enjoy studying your toys and playing with them and seeing what kind of artwork you can come up with.